A skull. That's ridiculous. Why would you ever lock onto a golden skull? Looks like we just dropped. Fuck! Okay, that's it. Alt F4. I'm not playing this. Alt F4. Was a fun game while it lasted. It's just impossible to control. You can't lock onto anything when you're throwing those, right? So you're kind of pointing your guy. You can't really control direction, and you can't really control distance. Maybe they're supposed to go into that little pond. I have no reason to believe that. I feel like the pond is a trap. It's like burying them. Maybe. I don't know. I just think that the crossroads there is really sus. Find it odd that there would just be a random hole they can fall into. Well, that might be the thing. I'm just too frustrated right now. I'm not even going to try it. It's too stupid. I'm not even going to try it. There's so many good things in that game. Why am I kicking box 3D skulls around with a third-person character? That's one of those things where if you're a kid and you haven't really played games because you're like 12, you don't know any better, right? That's one of those things where you spend 8 hours after school doing that and you're like, oh, cool, I kick the skulls around. I ate so much chocolate today. Yeah, it could be that they're all supposed to go down the hole. I don't know why. Well, so this is the thing is like, I think this happens with a lot of games like this is like, we're in the end game. We're down to the last few things. This game has had a lot of stuff in it. The language stuff has been really cool. Like it exceeded my expectations by like when I saw that there was a language in the thing, at first I wasn't sure if it all was supposed to make sense or if it was random characters, right? And then I was like, oh, this seems coherent to me, but I'm never going to figure it out because why would I, right? And then it just like the manual makes it tractable, right? And the system is cool. And like I said at the beginning of the stream, I mean, 2 streams ago at this point, because Twitch has kept cutting us off and dropping, or maybe my ISP, but like the fact that there's 4 or 5 different stylistic forms of the writing that are all connected in clear ways is super cool. And all that stuff was fun to discover. But like, we're getting toward the end of the game where the game is running out of ideas for us. And I feel this is a game design problem that I don't know how to solve. Like, I feel like as much as I tried to make The Witness navigable when you get toward the end, I feel like maybe people have this kind of grindy experience where there's not that many things left to do, and the ones that are left are the ones that aren't working that well for them because, different people have problems on different things. And obviously, if you find something easier, it's probably solved. In a game with 700 things, by the time you get to the last few things, those are going to be the things that were hard for you, right? And so it's actually a hard game design problem that I don't know how to solve, apart from bringing the game to an early conclusion and then not letting people play anymore. Yeah, I don't know. But I'm kind of having a bummer time, but it's not the game's fault, sort of. I mean, a little bit of it is. But dude, it's a small team. They worked on it forever. There's tons of stuff in it. Some of it's going to be rough. So, that's all fine. I mean, I'm sure over the course of development, they had to upgrade Unity 7 times, right? All that kind of thing, and keep the game working. So I don't know, this is a weird thing of on the one hand, I'm kind of inspired by, you don't ever want to copy what somebody did, but I'm inspired by the depth of the stuff in the player manual and all that. And I'm and I don't even know, there might be more in there that I haven't translated and stuff. That was super cool. It's the first writing system in a game that I was hyped to do. Usually they're cheesy. This one's good. And I just it's been really interesting to see the depth unfold of how many things there are to discover and how deep the system goes. So I'll be thinking about that when I design new things in the future for sure. But I also don't know how to solve this problem of getting to the end and having it kind of be a bummer. It's like the boss monster problem, right? Where it was oh, these boss battles are really hard, and there's 2 of them or 3 of them that we could do, but they're all hard, right? Here it's oh, there's this puzzle that we kind of have made progress on, and then I don't know why it's not working, and it's confusing, and there's lots of things to try. There's this other puzzle, the water one, where it's okay, we have some weird poem that I don't know what it means. It's cool that we got the weird poem that represents progress, but we don't know. And so I'm kind of stuck on multiple axes at once. And they're all a bummer in a certain way. In the way that I don't know how to make progress without randomly trying things and bashing my head against the wall. Which also, that is a way of making progress, and you do solve things eventually that way. But and again, I don't think this is the game's fault. I think this is a problem in video game design that nobody has ever solved, as far as I've seen. And this just brings it into focus again, and it's going to be interesting to think about. Did you end up figuring the language out fully? Yes. Is it worth spoiling the final puzzle? No. I might still play. Sometimes, if I'm missing some basic concept, right? Sometimes you go take a nap, you wake up the next morning and you suddenly know. You take a shower and you suddenly know. These things happen. So, it's fine, right? We'll just see how it gels over time. It is an interesting problem in game design, though. How do you, in this style of a game, which the witness is like. The Witness isn't that much like this gameplay wise, but it's a certain style of game where there's a bunch of things to discover and figure out. And the designer's only human, so there's a limit to what they can put in the game. And you eventually get to the end, and it's not as rich full of stuff anymore, right? Like in the beginning, in the middle, and even the end, it's like all this stuff. And then you get to the last couple things and it's like, eh. And like, I feel like every game is that way. And I don't know what to do about it. Anyway. One of those characters I thought was invalid was not. It was a W. Sad. But I think there were other invalid characters in that role. I think it was a W. We did so many things I don't remember. Is that an indication game is too long? Cut more out? No. What I just said is invariant to the size of the game, sort of, and also the quality of the things. What I'm saying is an inherent structural problem to this class of game, including the ones that I've made. And I don't know how to solve it. Yeah, I mean, when we play, we can try. So the thing is, I don't think those last few gold item puzzles are on the main line, right? They're just like there's an achievement, I think, for getting all the gold puzzles, but I don't care that much about that. I don't know. In-game hint system with progressive layers of hinting, maybe. There is this thing, though, like at the end. Okay, here's a related but different problem, right? Is pacing is important, and the way you leave people feeling at the end is important, right? It's why like movies have big, like classic storytelling had like a denouement, and Hollywood movies got rid of that shit or made it 30 seconds long because they want you to walk out of the theater feeling the big awesome thing at the end, right? This is kind of a troll what I'm about to say, but also a little bit not. The reason everybody loves Portal is because there's the cool song at the end, right? I mean, it's a good game in a lot of ways, but they've got the cool, funny comedy song at the end. And it just leaves you remembering the game very well, right? In a game, again, that The Witness is one example of, and this is another example of, in a game that has a well-defined ending, and then you go past the ending and just keep playing random stuff to try to 100% it or more percent it, it works against that feeling of completion in your mind because you're still in the game doing stuff that doesn't have closure exactly. Unless there's a super extra organized ending for 100%. But then not everyone's going to get that anyway. Like, it's just an interesting thing about this kind of game that it kind of, and again, I'm including my games in this, is kind of structured to leave you a little bit less optimally satisfied than you would have been with like a thing that ended high. You know what I mean? You're there with Elden Ring now. Yeah, dude, I'm so much earlier than you in Elden Ring. There's encourage and make possible for people to do all the side stuff before the end of the main game. I mean, maybe, but I mean, if you don't let them play side stuff after the end, they're going to load their old save game anyway, right? And so it's like, did they naturally do all the side stuff? But if it's side stuff, then why would they have naturally done it all? I don't know. It just doesn't seem that easy of a problem to me. And maybe that's fine. Like maybe this form just isn't tight in that way. One of my goals with The Witness was like, it's okay for it to be big and sprawling and not tight in a certain way. And, you know, maybe that's fine. And also, it's not even puzzle games that have this, right? So like all the Ubisoft games or whatever, when they decided they needed to give you 1 trillion hours of gameplay, they have all this like collect 50,000 orbs from around the game world, and it's a bunch of boring collect tasks. And it's like, I feel like that's a similar, it's even worse than this because this is actual like interesting things to think about and see. And that's just like mindless, boring collection, right? So I don't know. Video games are a thing. Like with this game, I was really frustrated with the boss fights for a bit, but like those are now in the first quarter of the gameplay or something, you know? So like my impression of the game is very, very different now that I've played all this other stuff. And like, yeah, the boss fights were frustrating, but they were like, they now loom small in the experience, if that makes sense. I don't know. Sometimes it seems like the developer just put in stuff to pad out the game. Hell yeah. For sure developers do that. I need to play this more. Well, we'll see. I mean, again, we'll see if I get any ideas about what else to do on this puzzle that makes sense. It's been a really rewarding game, though, for the most part. It's weird. Like in the beginning, I was like, oh, this is okay. And then I got really frustrated by the boss battles. And then I got into fun stuff. And then we got really good puzzles. And then tonight, we've just been back on the frustrating train mostly. So, meh. I will say the one gold piece treasure chest was such a huge troll, man. Man, why you troll me that way? Why you troll me that way? Yeah, I don't remember Riven at all. I hope they do a re-release of that. And dated, yeah. But, you know, with Myst, even the re-release that they just did, they fixed a bunch of stuff. Like, all the buttons and levers and stuff are obvious, right? They got a graphical revamp so that you don't, you know, you're not just like pixel hunting in that game now. So maybe they'll do that for Riven as well. Would I say the Myst re-release is the definitive way to play the game now? Yeah, probably. I wouldn't go play the old one if you can even find a working copy. Translation probably a bit too hard. You mean in this game? I mean, maybe. I don't know. I feel okay about it. I feel like it's fine. Yeah, I do think very few people... I mean, this is one of those things where very few people clearly are going to sit there and figure out the language, right? But for people who do, it's a very rewarding experience that they won't have gotten from any other game, really, right? And so what are you designing for? Are you designing for depth among some people or breadth of and approachability of not as specialized of an experience, right? And, you know, it's good if you could have both. And this game has both, right? Like, you can do some fights, you can do some basic puzzles, and then the puzzles get more interesting over time, and then there's a lot of depth there that very few people will see. It, like, you know, so it's okay. Yeah, like I agree, most people are not going to do the language stuff, but that's fine, right? All the unknowns are due to info that you bet is hidden in proper translations. That might be true. Like, there might just be other stuff in the book that I didn't translate that just says stuff. Like that back cover just said stuff. You see most not wanting to figure it out. Well, there's wanting to figure it out, but there's also just like, it takes a little bit of discipline. It's a relatively unguided thing, like figuring out the language here. And so you have to do it yourself a little bit. I mean, it really does help you a lot, right? Like the manual is crafted so that it can be figured out. But you have to make that motor run, right? And a lot of people just won't do that without feedback, and that's fine. Okay, everybody, bedtime for me. Thanks for hanging out. We may play this again. We'll see what my brain does when I sleep on it and stuff. See y'all later.